Hey guys, for writing today, we are going to read a new poem together and you'll answer a couple questions about it. And I'm also going to teach you a little bit new vocabulary to go with poetry. It's a really fun word called onomatopoeia. It's spelled in a really funny way. It sounds really funny. It's a really great word. We'll talk about that a little bit today, and maybe you'll even be able to put an example of onomatopoeia in your writing today. So today we're going to read a story called Gentle Sound of Rain by Lee Emmett. I'm going to read it twice. The first time I am going to define some vocabulary words in the poem, so I'll stop every once in a while. But the second time you can, I'll read it without those words. So this first time, if you would like to, just follow along since I'm going to be stopping quite a bit. And then the second time we read, you can close your eyes and kind of picture it and imagine it. This is on page 43 of your student writing handbook, so if you want to pause that and go grab it, you can also follow along there. So, this is Gentle Sound of Rain by Lee Emmett. Gentle sound of rain in puddles plopping, pings metal corrugations, which are ridges or grooves, pings metal corrugations dripping and dropping, swishing and rushing, gushing into gutters, gurgling in downpipes, running water splutters. Pushing into crevices, crevices are small narrow openings. Pushing into crevices, washing window panes, dashing down driveways, flushing out drains. Splashing onto roads, spatters parked cars, forms scatter patterns like pockmarked Mars. Pockmarked is something that's covered in small holes or marks. Crashing to crescendo, and if you guys have learned this word in band, crescendo is an increasing in loudness. So if you start really quiet and then slowly get louder, that's a crescendo. Crashing to crescendo as brassy cymbals roar, and brassy cymbals would be like the brass plate that's struck with a drumstick on a drum set. Cacophony on a roof. Cacophony is unpleasant loud sounds. So, for example, our fire alarm at school is a cacophony. It's an unpleasant sound and it's really loud. Deafening downpour. Deafening means extremely loud. So again, I'm going to read that one more time. If you want to close your eyes and just imagine and picture what this might sound like or feel like, feel free to do that. It's a really cool experience. So one more time, this is Gentle Sound of Rain. Gentle sound of rain in puddles plopping, pings metal corrugations, dripping and dropping. Swishing and rushing, gushing into gutters, gurgling in downpipes, running water splutters. Pushing into crevices, washing window panes, dashing down driveways, flushing out drains. Splashing onto roads, spatters parked cars, forms scatter patterns like pockmarked Mars. Crashing to crescendo as brassy cymbals roar, cacophony on roof, deafening downpour. So that is our poem, Gentle Sound of Rain. And there's a couple questions for you that you'll answer as a response to this assignment. I'm going to go ahead and read them now and just kind of explain what they mean. And then you can go ahead to the Seesaw activity and answer those. But make sure you also stick around for some vocabulary. So your questions are, 1, what rhyming words did you notice in this poem? I would like you to pick out 2 or 3 examples of rhyming words, and I'll give an example of how you can write those words in the Seesaw so that you know how to write them to show me that they rhyme. Number 2, why do you think the poet included so many words that have the sh sound? If you look, we've got swishing, rushing, gushing, that all have that sh sound, and they're splashing down here. There's a couple more. Why did they include so many words that have that sh sound in them? Why do you think? Number 3, what sound at the beginning of words do you notice over and over again in this poem? So the sound at the beginning of a word, not necessarily just what letter do they start with, but the sound. So for example, plopping starts with pl, not just p. It's the beginning sound that it starts with. So see if you can find a couple words that all start with the same sound, and see what you notice about those words. So those are your 3 questions. Obviously, you'll have writing time today that I'll talk about in your assignment as well. But I wanted to talk to you about a couple of vocabulary words that have to go with poetry. So when someone repeats the beginning sound, such as like puddles, plopping, pings, those all start with the same letter. They all start with the letter P. They don't necessarily start with the same sound, but the same letter. That is called alliteration. Alliteration is when you use the same sounds or words at the beginning, all kind of in the same order. So for example, just to give you another, we had a poem last week. At the end of the poem Firework by Valerie Worth, the last line said, silent sliding silver waterfalls and stars. And the repetition of that sound, or that S, is another example of alliteration. So that is something that people use in poetry a lot. And then there's also one of my favorite words, the word onomatopoeia. It's spelled really funny. It sounds really funny. And basically what an onomatopoeia is, it's words that sound like what they're describing. So for example, one example of onomatopoeia in this poem in particular was like gurgling or splashing. Another couple examples would be like the sounds a car makes, like honk, beep, vroom. Those are there. It's a word that describes exactly what that sound is. The barking of a dog, woof, bark, anything like that. It's a word that describes a sound. So if you're including any of those words and things in your poetry, you're including onomatopoeia in your poetry, which is pretty cool. So go ahead and answer those questions. Do your writing time. Make sure that you are sending me your writing. Quite a few of my friends still haven't done that. So please, 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 please share your writing with me. And I will